So this week you should have everything through 104 turned in, which means we had the one question quiz last week, which means you have an evidence of learning grade now. So I'll be putting that into eSchool. Some of them I've already got in eSchool and Home Access Center for you. So some of you can you have a grade in there if I've gotten it in there. I'll be working on that in the next day or so to get all those grades updated in there through Sunday. So we'll let you know tonight is a meet your teacher night. So if you want to come see us live in person rather than appearing here on your screen, that opportunity is available from 5 to 7. We will be up here. You can come up to the virtual school, which is located at Bentonville High School. You'll see an entrance when you come in the parking lot. It says virtual school. We are our own separate entrance here, right there by the street. So if your parent wants to come meet us, you guys want to come up, we will be here tonight from 5 to 7 to see you in person for those of you interested. So, but looking at this, most everybody has everything turned in. There's a few people that have some turned in but haven't got 104 finished yet, because that one you got to do work like on paper or on a Google Doc or somewhere and submit that. So some of you haven't got that. And then some of you are just behind previous assignments and need to get caught up on more than just 104. So make sure you get that in. Attendance for Thursday will be based on your one question quiz is like your grade. So if you're over 70% in that, and do you have everything turned in? If you don't have everything turned in through Sunday, you're automatically required to attend Thursday in my class. That's how I'm doing it. That's how I'm doing attendance at this point. We don't have enough grades, totally based on 70%. But if you did well in the quiz and your grade got everything turned in, then you don't have to be a Thursday. If you did not do well in the quiz, you do not have over 70%, or everything's not turned in, even if you did well, you need to be here. Otherwise, you're excused Thursday and don't have to come. This week, let's talk about this week. We have test week. We are finishing module 1. So I want to look at what we have in Buzz for that. So I'm going to put that up here on the screen. All right. Here it's coming up on our screen. Okay, so when we look at this week, if I go to the grade screen, which I can use as a little icon right here, or I can go up to the menu. Remember to go to grades. Look here, everything that was due so far, September 5th, there was 104 that we talked about earlier. All of this should be turned in. This week, we have due this Sunday, Systems of Equations Test Part 1, Systems of Equation Test Part 2. That's all we have. This is test week. So all you have is the 2 parts of Part 1, and we can look at it here briefly. Oh, I can't look at it on this screen. I got to go back to my activity screen. We can look at it. Okay, I'm going down here to the test. Part 1, or Part 1 of the test, it's multiple choice. So you've got these systems. He went to a carnival, played 5 games, 6 rides. He went to the carnival, played 7 games and 8 rides. If she paid this and he paid this, how much did one game cost? So you got to set up an equation. If you make games the X and rides the Y, you have 5X plus 6Y equals 1175. And he's got 7X and 8Y equals 1615. Solve that systems of equations. Are you looking for the X, the Y? So if it gives you a word problem, you got to write the equation yourself. This one has the equations right here. And you're trying to use the substitution method. So here's one that has 3 different variables. Then some graphing ones. So let's see how many multiple choice questions we have for part 1. We have 10 multiple choice questions. 10 multiple choice questions. And your questions may not be exactly the same ones on the screen because it has a bank of questions it looks at. So you may have different questions. And then part 2 will be where you have to provide more than, I need to go look and make sure. That's a little symbol. I need to go and fix that because it should be showing something there. It's probably a negative. I'll look at it. But on part 2 is where you have to show your work. So any of these big blanks like that, show your steps for 2 reasons. One thing, you got to show all your work to get all the points. If you just put an answer, you just get some of the points, not all of them. And the other one, it helps you that if you put the wrong answer, I can look at your work. And if you did part of it right, you can get credit for the part you did right. So it's not all or nothing. This 10 points means you've shown me all the work and you got everything correct. But if you did all the work correctly and somehow put the wrong answer, you might still get 8 or 9 points, depending on how well everything is, right? So you don't have to be all or nothing on having the right answer on that. So 4 questions on part 2 of that. So going back before you take the test, though, right here is 105, Systems of Equations Review for Test. Right here, it has summaries of the first 4 lessons, and it has them numbered differently. Don't pay attention to the 0601, 0603. They number it differently than what we numbered it for our class, but this is our first 4 lessons, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Solving systems of equation algebraically. If you click on that, it gives you a lesson summary. This is all the stuff we learned in that lesson. It gives you the steps for using substitution. Tells you what to do. Step 1, step 2, step 3. It says if the variable disappears, if you're left with a true equation, like 3 equals 3, that means the answer's infinite solutions. If you end up with a false equation, like 0 equals 6, that means there's no solution, right? So if the variable disappears, this even has that. So this is great if you have a printer and want to print these out and use these notes on the test, do that, because you can use your notes on the test. If you want to copy these down on paper, write them down, you have that. So this is the entire lesson summary of the first one. I like this down here. It gives you a graphical representation. When you have equations with 3 variables, what does that mean? It says, well, when you graph it, and let me show you what it looks like on the graph. This is a GeoGebra has a lot of good stuff. This is a 3D graph. It has X, Y, and Z. So if you end up with a solution with let's say the X equals 2 and the Y equals 4. Now let's bring it back closer to where it shows up on this graph. See, there's 2, 2, but we have that Z. So what if it ends up with 1? Well, that means it's floating up here in the air. See, it's off of the XY axis because it's on 1 on the Z axis. So it raises up in the air. So an XYZ solution is actually 3-dimensional when you graph it. So we can see it's at 2, 2 on the X and the Y, but it's up in the air where Z equals 1. So that's kind of a visual representation for you visual folks. I like to see that. It's kind of fun. So you can go in there and play with this. Graph -2, 1, -1. Oops, that's not a comma. Try that. Let's graph those points. So that one's below the XY axis because it's at Z equals -1. But we get right on top of it, we can see it's at -2, 1 on the XY, but it's lower with the Z. So just kind of a fun thing. GeoGebra is kind of a neat website you can go to. GeoGebra. So it's got all kinds of different graphs and simulations and stuff you can use there. So anyway, has the lesson summary for all of these. There's graphic lesson, how to solve systems graphically. And it's got the steps that you use. Summary for that. Nonlinear equations. So there's the summary on substitution and elimination. All right, so put the print button where you can print that. Oh, sorry. And 04. Graphing nonlinear equations summary. So again, it's got the little print button built in where you can print those summaries and use these on your test if you like. You can always use your notes on your test in my class. You can always use your notes. So make good use of that. When this gives you all of these notes automatically, take those notes and use that. So I want you to have that in your back pocket there, your notes. So We don't have an actual, well, it has a practice test you can print out and look at. So here's a practice test right here. If you want to take a practice test, it's on page 2. It's nothing that you turn in Buzz. It's just a practice test that it gives you. And so here is a bunch of questions. It's a lot more than the test. So 14, but I think it starts the numbering over here somewhere, didn't it? Oh, yeah. See, it goes to 15 and starts over again here. So we got it broken. Oh, that's the solutions. I'm sorry. That's the solutions for you. And has the answers, just the short answers. And then here below that is the actual solution where they tell you how to work it out. How to work it out. So it has exactly all the steps needed for those practice problems. So that's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's got it all for you there. So the practice test itself. So if you don't know, if you understand this, if you're not sure about this unit, take that practice test first. You don't have to print it. You can copy it on paper. You can say, here's the problem, and try to work that on paper. Question number 1. Work that on paper. And then check it against the answers. Check the solution. See if you worked it correctly. If you don't get the right answer. So it does have this resource for you. I want you to be able to use that. So I will post a video of myself doing the practice test. I will print this out and I will take the practice test and I'll post that video so you have that to use as well. If you don't understand what that's telling you, you can go and see what I did. So if you want to work on the practice test and take the test later in the week after I post that video, you are more than welcome to do that, because it may be a day or two. I'll try to get that done by tomorrow, hopefully at the latest. But I'll try to get that practice test done and uploaded the video to Google Classroom. So you have that just to see how I work those problems. So I'll try to do that before test. Anytime there's a practice test, I'll work through the practice test and have that available for you to look at also. You don't have to look at the whole thing. It's 15 problems, so it's probably a half-hour video. It'll probably take at least 2 minutes to work a problem. So if you see that video, it's half an hour, you don't have to watch the entire half hour. If you take the practice test and you do great on the first 10, but then you run the problems, fast forward that video until I get through the first 10. And then say, oh, that's how you do that, right? So skip around and just watch what you need to watch on that practice test. Because if you know something, there's no need to watch me work it if you already know exactly what you're doing on that, right? So use your time wisely. I don't want you to have to waste a lot of time, but I want you to take the time you need to make sure you understand everything. Because I want you to do well. I want you to knock this test out, because this will be, that quiz was just one question, just 5 points. This is going to be a lot bigger part of your grade. So if you don't do well on this, your grade's going to be below 70, and you'll be back having to be in class every class period starting next week. So I don't want you to have to be in class every week if you're understanding things well. So, take the test. The test gives you one opportunity. You can't take it over and over again. The practice test, you can do that as many times as you want, right? It's not nothing you even turn in. So if you go through the practice test, you can't understand something, you watch my video, you don't understand something, get with me. Email me. If you can always come to class Thursday, because I'll come to class at 8:55 and see if anyone's here. And there may be some people that's required to be here if they don't get their stuff turned in. And you can always email me and say, hey, I don't understand this. And we can find the time to get online together. I want you to get your questions answered before you take the test, right? Because if you're confused on something, don't say, oh, well, I'll just go take the test anyway. No. Make a plan to succeed, which means get with me so I can help you understand what you don't know before you take the test, because I want you to do well on that. So, all right. Well, since that's all we have this week is the test, there's nothing for me to really go over at this point, unless you have specific questions on any lessons. But otherwise, I will let you guys go and have a great week. Kill this test. Do great. And I'll get your other stuff graded. So
let's get out of here. Word to your multiples.